You ever notice how educational research seems to have a really bad reputation? I mean, you hear it all the time. It's irrelevant, it's all over the place, it's just not helpful. But the reasons why are so much deeper than you'd think. It actually gets into some really fundamental philosophy, so let's get into it and unpack the real story behind all the criticism.
And look, this isn't just an attack from outsiders. This question was asked way back in 1993 by historian Carl Kasell, someone from inside the research world. That tells you just how long this frustration has been simmering. This is the central mystery we're going to try to solve.
All right, so where is all this criticism actually coming from? To really get a grip on the problem, we've got to look at the specific complaints. Let's start with one of the biggest reports that really laid it all out.
Yeah, this pretty much sums it up. A major report in the UK back in 1998, the Hillage Report, basically said the whole field was failing. Policymakers were frustrated because it didn't give them clear answers about, what works. Teachers felt like it had nothing to do with the real challenges they face in the classroom every day. On top of that, the research itself felt like 1,000 puzzle pieces from different boxes, nothing connected. And maybe worst of all, a lot of it was accused of pushing a political agenda instead of just searching for the truth.
And this isn't just a UK thing, it's a worldwide complaint. You often hear this comparison to medicine, right? In medicine, research builds on past research, creating the solid foundation of knowledge. So critics look at education and ask, why don't we have that? But as we're about to see, maybe that comparison to medicine is the very thing tripping us up.
So, is it just a case of bad science? Well, not quite. The real root of the problem is something way more basic. It's the fact that we haven't even agreed on what our most fundamental words, like education or even skill, actually mean.
And this is where we hit a really key philosophical idea, the contestable concept. It's basically a term that's impossible to nail down with a single definition, because it's wrapped up in values, and well, people value different things. And honestly, the word education might just be the ultimate contestable concept.
To see what I mean, let's just take a word that seems super simple. What is a skill? We throw this word around all the time in reports and research, but do we really know what we're counting?
Okay, think about this example. Is cleaning a street a skill? I mean, some people are definitely better at it than others, so maybe. But is it just one skill, or is it a bunch of different skills combined? And can you really add that to a national count of skilled jobs right next to, say, brain surgery or computer programming? See, as soon as researchers try to put a number on something that fuzzy, the results can become totally misleading. The problem isn't the counting, it's the vague definition they started with.
And this whole definition problem goes right to the very heart of the matter. Before we can even begin to research education, we have to figure out what makes an activity truly educational, and not just, training someone, or even worse, indoctrinating them.
The great philosopher John Dewey had a really powerful way of looking at this. For him, something was genuinely educational if it opened up a person to learn more, if it led to what he called growth. But a miseducational experience? That was anything that slammed the door shut, that blocked future growth. Think about a class so boring it puts a student off a subject for the rest of their life. That's miseducation. So, if we boil it down, an activity is educational if 1. It causes learning. 2. That learning is seen as worthwhile. 3. It actually helps you develop as a human being. And 4, and this is crucial, it has to respect the learner's mind. It can't just be about brainwashing. And right there you see the massive problem for researchers. How do you objectively measure if learning is worthwhile, or if it contributes to development as a person? These are questions about values, not just facts.
This deep, philosophical mess has created a huge split, really a battle, inside the world of educational research. It's a clash between two totally different ways of seeing the world and trying to find the truth.
On one side, you have the scientific detective. Think Sherlock Holmes with a spreadsheet. This approach used numbers, quantitative data, to search for an objective reality. It's looking for general laws of learning that can predict what's going to happen. Then on the other side, you have the interpretive detective. This is more like an investigative journalist. They use qualitative methods to explore the subjective meanings that people create. They aren't looking for universal laws. They're trying to get a deep understanding of why something happens in one specific classroom with one specific teacher. And for decades, these two have been at war. But here's the twist. What if this epic battle, this huge war between numbers and stories, is all based on a giant misunderstanding? What if the divide isn't even real?
Now this quote here, this gets to the very heart of the interpretive argument. It says that there isn't one single objective reality just waiting out there for us to discover. Instead, there are tons of different realities, all constructed by people as they try to make sense of the world. So from this point of view, the scientific detective's whole mission to find one objective truth is kind of pointless.
But then you get this bombshell, and check out who it's from. Donald Campbell was a titan in the world of quantitative, scientific research, the other camp. And he's saying that his side is totally lost without the work of the interpretive folks. He's arguing you can't measure anything meaningful until you first have a deep, qualitative understanding of what you're even trying to measure. Without that context, your data printout is just a bunch of meaningless numbers.
And that's when it clicks. The whole sharp divide between the numbers people and the stories people, between objective and subjective, it's a philosophical mistake. It's a false dualism. It creates a war where there should just be a partnership.
So the real insight is that these two traditions desperately need each other. They're not enemies fighting for the same territory. They're interdependent. Think about it. Powerful stories need evidence to be believable, and powerful numbers need stories to have any meaning. The best research gets this and uses the strengths of both.
Which brings us right back to where we started, but now with a totally new perspective. The problem with educational research isn't just about sloppy work. It's about a deep confusion over what education is even for. Research doesn't just describe what our schools are like, it actively helps create them. And that leaves us with one final, massive question, not just for the researchers, but for every single one of us. What kind of educational reality do we actually want to build?